Hey everyone, What If Fan here, bringing you another exciting part of What If Transmigrated as Minato Namikaze. You can find the fanfic title and the original author's name on my Patreon page. Make sure to check it out and show them some love. If you enjoy the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell so you never miss an upload. Also check out my Patreon channel for early releases of all the series, where you can find all the series released one day ahead of YouTube. Alright, let's jump into it. Chapter 81, Mission Rank S06. Third Person POV. Konoha, Year 36. While the girls looked quite embarrassed, Minato switched his dazed face to a more serious expression. "Listen," he said, making the girls look at Minato and see that he had a more serious look than usual. What, Minato? I felt a suspect entering my sensory field. He spoke, and the girls also became more serious. "Let's see who this person is and investigate her," Minato said, and the girls nodded. The person herself had just entered the city and was looking at the streets from atop a house. Minato and the girls appeared in a hidden spot in the suspect's blind spot. They kept the same clothes, with Minato still wearing his suit and the girls their dresses, as they observed that suspect. A person looking at the city dressed in black. "Definitely suspicious," Mikoto murmured. "It's a woman. Activating her Byakugan. What should we do?" Mikoto turned back to Minato. "Nothing yet, just watch for now," Minato commented as they nodded. The woman dressed in black just looked at the city, calmly observing everything she could without making a move and realizing she was being watched at this moment. She wore an outfit that covered her whole body including her face except for her hair and an eye band. Minato and the girls stayed there for an hour doing nothing while they maintained their position, until the person decided to move for the first time. As the night covered her, she began to jump between houses towards the city wall, leaving the place shortly after. "Shouldn't we follow her?" Mikoto asked, since Minato asked no one to move yet, just to keep their position there. "Not yet, let's wait until she gets to a safe distance. Hanabi can follow her with her Byakugan," Minato said. After all, Hanabi's range was greater than his observation haki. "Yes," she spoke, and as soon as a good amount of time passed, Minato raised his hand in a signal and they followed the woman shortly after. Hanabi never took her eyes off her as she followed through the darkness of the night, seeing her miles away. "She's heading for a mountain," Hanabi spoke, and Minato nodded. "Let's follow her, but we have to be careful not to be detected," he suggested, and they all started to approach the location. The woman, a sand ninja, approached the hideout, while whistling a few times as a form of code, and passed by the sentinels in front of a cave as they nodded at her entering the place. "You finally arrived," said a jonin. "Yes." The woman in black spoke, landing in the middle of the location. The hideout was simple, with a bonfire in the middle, but not to the point of its light appearing at the entrance, since there were corridors inside the cave until reaching this place. There were some chests with scrolls and at least 15 ninjas besides the woman and the 2 sentinels at the location, totaling a team with 18 ninjas from the Wind Country, with 6 jonins and 12 chunins. "How was the city, Havanda?" asked a regular chunin. "Nothing much, just normal people. There was no presence of ninjas at the location." She spoke without knowing she had been followed. "That's good. The country is at war on all sides, so internal defense is concentrated in Konoha and the capital." A jonin spoke. "Is our plan to attack that city?" a chunin asked the jonin leader. "Yes, it seems something happened in the south with another team. Since they lost signal, we are suspecting that the Konoha ninjas intercepted them and may already know our plan. Our plan is to create a major distraction so that the main force invests against our target," he spoke. "But wouldn't it be bad if all those Konoha ninjas come out of the border to stop us?" Another spoke, clearly afraid of dying. "Be a man and stop complaining. We might as well die here, but this is the plan of our superiors. This is our chance to win over the Fire Country and take a part of their lands for ourselves." The leader spoke angrily. After all, they went to war to gain fertile lands. With the war being won, the Wind Country is starting to have a food collapse, and they entered an alliance with the Stone Country precisely to conquer and get out of their current situation. A jonin grabbed something from the fire to eat. He's right, we must carry out our mission at all costs, even if we have to decimate cities in the Fire Country. but we'll do it for the future of our nation and our village. He spoke passionately as everyone nodded. Meanwhile, outside at a safe distance, the three genins looked towards the entrance of the cave. What can you see? Minato asked Hanabi, still outside of his sensory field. Two sentinels, but there's a bunch of chakras inside the place. She said. What should I do? Minato thought, debating in his mind. After all, he could simply destroy the place using all his powers as he had done before, but now he wasn't alone, he couldn't use his powers recklessly, and moreover, this is a joint mission. If he did something like that, it could compromise the entire mission and he would be held responsible. Seems like I'll have to pass this information before doing anything. He concluded. I'll leave a mark here, we need to go back. I'll inform the sensei and call for reinforcements. He said, and the girls nodded. They quickly returned to the city and went to the inn while each of the girls went to their room. Minato returned to the sky and used his Flying Thunder God technique, heading for the capital. Minato mentioned that he could use the Flying Thunder God technique in this way and Jiraiya took his seal. Minato had not yet started to make the special kunai. He teleported to the seal Jiraiya was carrying and ended up in a place he didn't expect to go, a brothel. Minato appeared out of nowhere, startling a woman who was passing through the place. Ah! She stumbled, and Minato looked bewildered at that, while looking around the place bewildered. What is this? She wondered until her gaze stopped on the table in front of her, where there was a drunken Jiraiya with two women on his lap. This bastard! He couldn't help but curse. Jiraiya, who was looking to have fun in the first nights in the capital during this mission, didn't even see a kick coming to his face while he was talking to the women, saying that he was famous for being a great ninja and a successful writer. Don't worry ladies, I'll protect you from this war. HM? It was at that moment he felt a great pain coming from his cheek as Minato kicked him, causing the women to be surprised and scared. Jiraiya immediately flew from the place, knocking the women from his lap as he flew into a table before destroying it. Who did this? He immediately asked, now having a serious face, while the whole place looked at this commotion. What's going on here? Said a security guard, mainly to the boy on the couch while the women were on the floor and the man was getting up. Minato looked at him wondering if he had a problem with him. The man got scared when he felt a chill from the child's gaze, swallowing hard. Me Minato. Jiraiya turned around and found Minato standing on the couch staring at him with a very serious look. Hello, sensei, I came to deliver some update on the mission, but now I found out why you left this mission to your students. After all, you couldn't go to brothels with kids, right? Minato spoke angrily. Wait, it's not what it looks like. Jiraiya wanted to defend himself. After all, what kind of image was he presenting here? I can see exactly what it is, sensei. Minato spoke while the place watched an adult man seemingly apologizing to a dissatisfied child. Listen Minato, let's go somewhere else, this was just a quick outing, I'm still in control of the mission, you know that. He spoke, scratching his head. Minato sighed, what else could he do? You pay for the damages. I'll wait for you outside. Minato spoke, jumping off the couch and walking past Jiraiya while the security didn't even try to stop the grumpy boy. He left the place and stood looking at the bustling streets of the capital, much busier than that city with a festival happening. There was a large Japanese-style castle in a corner, where the daimyo's residence must be. 3 minutes later, Jiraiya came out of the place, scratching his wallet with a quite regretful expression. Let's go to where my team and I are set up, he said, and Minato nodded, following the teacher without saying anything more. They entered an inn where Minato sensed the presence of the three jonins, Lord Tohataki, Rate Senju, Purishardi, playing cards, but since the Flying Thunder God technique was a secret between Minato and Jiraiya, they went to Jiraiya's room. The jonin cleared his throat, wanting to forget all the confusion before, and spoke. Tell me, Minato. What did you and your team find? He asked. We found a group in the second city, Minato said, unfolding a scroll of that region with all the nearby cities, and he pointed to the current one they were in. We didn't discover anything interesting in that first one, however, there was an event happening here. He pointed before continuing, I found a scout ninja on the rooftops and he wasn't from Konoha. We kept watching him until he returned to a location outside the city, where we found a place full of ninjas hidden inside a cave. Minato spoke, pointing to the cave's location. Mark those points for me, Jiraiya spoke in a neutral tone, and Minato did so on the map. Great, you did well in reporting this before trying to do something on your own. This greatly shows your control as a leader, and I am satisfied with that, Jiraiya spoke, and Minato nodded. Now they were talking about a serious matter. I will deliver the information to Kuril Nara, he is taking care of all the monitoring, but certainly, it's faster for you to pass the information to me so I can contact him, Jiraiya spoke. You wait for the arrival of reinforcements, but don't try anything beyond observing. Also do not hesitate to abandon the mission while your teammates are in danger, Jiraiya spoke, and Minato nodded, appreciating the advice. That's it, I'm going. Goodbye, sensei, he said and disappeared. Jiraiya saw Minato leaving and opened a scroll. Picking up a brush and common ink before writing an order, he rolled up the scroll together with the map that Minato brought him and summoned a frog before it took the scrolls with its tongue and disappeared. You're doing very well, kid. Jiraiya commented but soon felt a pain in his cheek, but he has to treat his sensei better. He commented, rubbing that injured part. Chapter 82 Mission Rank S07. Third Person POV. Fire Country, Year 36. Minato woke up the next morning and joined the girls for a shared meal in his room to avoid raising too many suspicions. Good morning. Minato greeted. Good morning, Mikoto commented while Hanabi nodded. They were eating something brought by the inn while Minato reported on the mission updates. I spoke with Jiraiya-sensei yesterday. He informed us that we will have reinforcements soon, Minato commented. That's good, Hanabi commented. What are we going to do? Mikoto asked. For now, nothing. We will wait for the group of Jonins to arrive before we start acting. We must stay hidden until then so as not to alert our enemies, Minato said, and the girls nodded. They stayed at the inn the whole morning, until Minato's observation haki warned him about the Jonins entering his sensitive field. Since Minato had informed them of his current location, it was not difficult for them to arrive at the inn, knocking on the window. Naruto opened it and was faced with the three Jonins from Konoha who entered the room. They were Jiraiya and Uchiha, Vayer Cole, and the squad leader, Kuril Nara. Finally, some action, we were getting bored going from town to town. Vayer commented as he looked at the children. Tisk, the older Uchiha just shrugged. Well, let's go over the information you found. This was quite quick, kids, Nara commented, and Minato nodded, taking a step forward before starting to detail everything they found following the suspicious kunoichi. I see, there's a large group of ninjas in this location. Nara commented with a thoughtful look. We'll scout the area after the sun sets. I want to look at the terrain before we act. After all, given such a large group, there must be Jonins. He reasoned, and everyone nodded. Minato was no longer in command of the mission, which was quite normal given the Jonins joining the group, and he had to respect the hierarchy. The day passed while they remained hidden, until night fell and they decided to act, leaving all six outside the town, studying the enemy's hideout. We can't see from here, but we certainly can't get any closer, Nara said as he analyzed the mountain in front of him. He turned to the Hyuga girl and asked, What do you see? 2 sentinels, but it seems there are fewer people today, Hanabi commented, seeing that there were 3 less. 3 less. He began to scratch his chin. You mentioned that one of them had gone to town as a scout. Nara turned to his partner. Is there a town near here like the last one? He asked Vayer, who had studied all the geography of the area. Yes, a bit further away, but still much closer than the others, he said. I want to study the terrain before initiating an attack to have the best strategy, he said, unable to chase the 3 suspects while they are scouting the area. His gaze returned to the boy with blonde hair. Jiraiya informed me that I can trust you with tasks, even dangerous ones, so I would like you to investigate. I would send one of our Jonins, but with a threat level in the cave, it's better we have all our power here, Nara said, and Minato nodded. I can do this with my team, Minato said, and the man nodded. That's good, see what they are doing and if you can take them down without the main group suspecting, do it, Nara said, setting his condition. After all, they still wanted the element of surprise, but also didn't want a group of enemy ninjas wandering around on their own. Minato nodded, and he looked at his team, picking up the map and seeing the city they would go to. Let's go, he said, and all 3 jumped, heading in the direction of the 3rd city. It took about 3 hours for Minato and his companions to reach the city, which was even larger than the last and quite peculiar. It was still dawn as they snuck in, trying not to be noticed by any enemy sentinels in the area, landing on one of the houses and taking a better look at the moonless city sky. "This place is beautiful, isn't it?" Makoto commented, looking around, noting that even in the dark, the city seemed unique. The place was filled with rivers bisecting the city, with a large rock in the middle of it with a waterfall cascading down and filling the rivers. "Yes, but we should focus on the mission," Hanabi said. Minato looked at the city, trying to find anything. But, as his observational haki did not cover that entire range, he decided to start moving. "Let's go, try to be discreet as we look for anything, and stay alert," he said, as he jumped across the rooftops with the girls moving behind him. "Hanabi, you have the best field of vision among us three. Any suspicion in your eyes, let us know," he commented, and she nodded, activating her Byakugan. They began to move, house by house, entering the city, maintaining their discretion by hiding in the shadows of the night. Until, at one point, Minato felt something on his radar. His haki, now more evolved than before, could tell they were being watched. "Stop," he said, and they quickly ducked into an alleyway in the city with the girls following him. "We're being watched," he said as they landed on the ground with Makoto and Hanabi by his side. "How do you know?" Hanabi asked, a bit worried as she hadn't seen anything so far. Minato looked towards where his haki had alerted him, and it was that huge rock with the waterfall in the city. "Look over there," he said, pointing his finger. Hanabi immediately began to sweep that corner, peering through the city walls until she spotted an individual on top of the waterfall with a magnifying glass in hand, watching them after seeing them jumping across the buildings. "There's a ninja watching us," she said, noting the posture of the person with the magnifying glass. Minato nodded upon hearing this. "He's seen us, but we can still deceive him," he said, creating 3 shadow clones, transforming 2 of them into disguises, with one each of Hanabi and Makoto, while they went back to jumping towards the building they were heading towards before, while the man with the magnifying glass followed them. "He's looking at the clones," Hanabi observed. "That's great, let's approach from inside the city," Minato said as they used the opposite side to advance towards the waterfall. They then began to move towards the ninja's blind spot, while he still continued to follow the 3 clones, unsuspecting that he had already been detected by the children. As they got closer, Minato felt his presence on his radar and also saw another 2 members hidden a little behind him as they watched the city. "We have a problem," Minato commented, seeing a powerful enemy in the group. "There's a jonin among them and we can't take him down without drawing a lot of attention." "I can do it, but I'll use something special for this. After all, this mission depends a lot on discretion and we might even jeopardize it if we act rashly." He spoke, and the girls nodded, though Makoto was still unaware of what it entailed. Hanabi had seen these abilities before. "I'll use some abilities I never used in the academy. I want you to keep this quiet," Minato spoke with a more serious tone to Makoto, who nodded though she was still confused. "Take care of the 2 chunins, while I'll fight the jonin," Minato instructed as everyone got into battle position, beginning to climb the place. Meanwhile, above the rock, the chunin with the magnifying glass continued to monitor the movements of the 3 genin through the city, while his 2 companions, a bit behind, were seated, also watching. "So, there are ninjas in the area?" the jonin asked him. "Yes, just 3 kids," the ninja with the magnifying glass replied. "Don't bother, they must just be genins on some mission," another jonin spoke. "Maybe we should care, after all, we could capture them and get some information," said the interested jonin. "There are 2 girls among them, we could have some fun," said the man with the magnifying glass. "See, it looks like this is our lucky day," the jonin said with a sadistic smile. They were laughing when a shadow emerged from one of the sides, throwing a kunai between the 2 behind, who quickly jumped away. This kunai had 2 small spheres on it, and before they could react, a smoke bomb exploded, filling the entire area with smoke. "Have we been discovered?" said the surprised chunin. "What is this?" "Enemy attack," the jonin shouted, readying for battle. The man with the magnifying glass quickly left his position and looked bewildered as the smoke also filled his vision. Makoto used the waterfall itself and leaped up while targeting him with a kunai and her Sharingan activated, which made him quickly drop the magnifying glass and swap it for a kunai. In the midst of the smoke, Hanabi managed to surprise the ninja Chunin on the other side, hitting his shoulder with a chakra palm, making him lose movement but not falling as he screamed in surprise, moving back a bit to prepare for a fight. The Jonin, however, was alert amidst the chaos, seeing his companions being attacked by children, waiting for the last one to appear. It didn't take long, as a kunai flew towards him, which he quickly defended against by reflex, making a metallic sound and the kunai spinning slowly in the air. But this kunai had a seal attached to a paper, allowing Minato to appear at that moment using Raijin, leaving the Jonin a bit stunned by it and almost without reaction. Minato wasted no time and kicked him at that moment with the only blow he could manage, as he was a bit away and only had reached to the ninja with his lower limb, but his kick was so powerful that it sent the ninja flying backward, feeling the blow while trying to defend. The ninja Jonin felt immense pain but quickly returned to his fighting stance with his arm dislocated after trying to stop the child's kick. What's happening? How did he appear out of nowhere and how can he be so strong? He internally asked with clenched teeth. After all, he was caught by a child. Unfortunately for him, Minato was no longer in that place, and before he realized, a glow appeared behind him. Minato, using his Pika Pika no Mi, was calmly looking at him from that position while lifting his foot, and this part began to glow. Have you ever taken a kick at the speed of light? Minato asked calmly, always wanting to say this phrase since he came to this world. The ninja couldn't even react as he turned in slow motion towards Minato. Before he could react, he felt an impact of light power with that kick. Minato kicked him, and the man flew like a rocket, breaking the ground with such force that he fell unconscious. Minato nodded with a small smile, seeing this with his observation haki. The girls were still in their fights with a bit of difficulty, as they were fighting against two Chunins. Hanabi was trying to hit the enemy, who quickly engaged in a taijutsu fight with a numb arm. She was gaining advantage against the ninja. Even so, Minato appeared at that moment, since she maintained a Raijin seal, and he, wanting to end the fight, hit him in the face with a punch without the ninja being able to react. And before Hanabi could react, Minato had disappeared, appearing next to Makoto, who was having more trouble. After all, the ninja was using a katana against her kunai. She exchanged blows with the ninja who, despite her using her Sharingan, the enemy ninja had more strength and experience. That was until Minato appeared next to her and kicked him in the face, making him fall to the ground. And he didn't stop there. Feeling that the ninja hadn't fallen yet, he appeared above the ninja with his light travel and punched his head, making him fall. What was that? Makoto was surprised by that, seeing Minato travel while shining, but she looked up and thanked him. Minato had no reason to keep hiding these abilities from the girls. After all, Hanabi already knew about it and always kept it a secret, and Makoto was also someone Minato trusted. You intervened in my fight, but I understand. Hanabi approached with a small smile. We need to be as discreet as possible. In the end, we managed to take them all down. Minato looked at the three fallen. Makoto, although surprised by Minato's abilities, remained silent about it. So, are we done here? She asked her leader about another matter. Yes. Minato said, as he started walking over to each of the fallen ones and began to tie up their bodies with ropes and seals he was studying with advanced Fuinjutsu, intended to secure them much more. After tying them up, he placed them inside a scroll and returned to his group. In a way, we failed our mission, since we were supposed to see what they were doing and ended up being found by them. However, we captured them alive, and that gives us some excuse. Minato spoke with his companions, nodding. I'm sleepy, Hanabi commented while yawning. After all, they had spent the entire night on this mission, and the sun was already rising in the east. Let's go back and rest a bit, after informing the others. Now, I want you to touch me, Minato spoke, as the girls approached, touching his shoulder. He made a seal and activated his Hiraishin, and they disappeared from the location, appearing near the city they were staying in, but not at the inn so the Jonins wouldn't see his teleportation jutsu, wanting to hide the technique. Now, let's find the others and deliver our prisoners, Minato spoke, as they nodded their heads and went back to the city. Chapter 83, Mission Rank S08. Third Person POV. Fire Country, Year 36. The trio began to head back to the town before dawn, arriving at the inn, where the Jonin picked up extra rooms. Minato quickly went to his window to see the squad leader, Nara, standing next to the balcony door, while he appeared to be thinking. He saw them arriving without showing any reaction. HM? you finally arrived, Johnny said. Yes. Minato landed in front of him with his companions right behind. That's good. How was the mission? He asked. Minato went to his clothes and pulled out a scroll. We were discovered. He said, but we acted against the enemy and took down all three. They are trapped inside the scroll, he declared, handing over the paper to the man who caught it as Minato threw it. Nara looked thoughtful about what he had just heard. Well, that's unexpected, but good that you managed it. Let's take a look and review how the main group will react to the absence of these members. He spoke. Now you can rest a bit. After all, we'll need to recover all our strengths before planning an attack against the invading ninjas, he said. Let's go. Minato nodded as he asked the girls to follow him inside. Entering the room, each of them went to their own as Minato went to bed yawning, but putting up a clone who grumbled about staying on guard. What time is it? A few hours later, as the sun was already in the middle of the sky, Minato woke up yawning as he asked the clone. Midday. Goodbye. Poof, he simply disappeared. What a bad mood. Minato murmured and got out of bed dressing before meeting with the others. He had already felt Nara appear behind his door as soon as he got up and went to talk to him. Wake your team, we're having an important meeting. He said and left with Minato nodding. Makoto and Hanabi didn't take long to go to the Jonin's room, who were waiting for them. Finally, you're here. Vayer smiled at the group. Let's start. Kirill Nara began. We checked the prisoners, and I'm personally impressed that you took down a Jonin and 2 Chunins. It seems that the village's program in trying to raise the biggest group of village children, the elite class, has borne good fruits. He praised before continuing. You also managed to open a way for an attack on their base. He spoke and turned to the Uchiha. Our grumpy companion here. He spoke as the Uchiha snarled at Nara. Has good eyes with genjutsu. He might not be able to get information from the Jonin, but surely the Chunins are easier for him to control. He managed to cast a genjutsu and we got some information. He spoke while Minato had an attentive look at this. This group came from the country of wind. Many of them have blended around the cities. The country of stone is also infiltrated and they intend to create a distraction for the main target. Unfortunately, the Chunin doesn't have much information beyond it being a top-secret mission to gain an advantage in the border war. He spoke before continuing. After we saw that they were collecting information and that they should be returning by now, I believe we can use our friend Uchiha to control the Chunin for a short period of time, since this is limited, and create an opening to enter their base. He spoke and now had a serious look for each one in that room. There's a member of the Yamanaka clan coming from the battlefield. We can't wait for reinforcements to arrive. It will be crucial that we can capture the Jonin leader. With him we can discover all the necessary information besides staying in the dark looking for them. He said, and the Genins and Jonins nodded. Nara turned his attention to the Genins. Well, you've proved you have skills, so we can include you in a mission as difficult as this one. After all, we'll be facing a group full of Jonins and Chunins when we are in much smaller numbers. Me and the guys here will launch a direct attack, but we'll have the element of surprise to gain some advantage. Now we know the enemy's strength thanks to the information that Jiraiya managed to get. There are still 5 Jonins and 10 Chunins at that location. He said. What I want from you is to set traps for those who escape or keep your distance, but follow from afar so we can hunt them down later. Nara spoke, and the 3 nodded. Now you need to prepare, we're starting the attack tonight. He declared, and Minato and his team left the room, checking their arsenal for the mission. As the day changed and night began to cover the sky, meanwhile, in the middle of the forest, in the cave where the ninjas from the country of winds still remained hidden, the atmosphere was not the best. How strange, we haven't heard from Team 1, one of the Jonins speaking to the other. They should have contacted us hours ago. Weren't they just supposed to look at the city and send some report? This is suspicious. He murmured. Something happened, said the other, while the leader, hearing this, frowned upon hearing it. They can't have been discovered, can they? After all, we're on a top-secret mission and, as much as one team disappears, it would still be difficult to track us here so quickly. Another spoke. Let's check this out tomorrow. Anyway, we'll be on guard. We can't wait for too long, and we can only expect the worst. The leader spoke to everyone, and everyone felt the tension take hold of them at that moment. Outside the location, while the sentinels were on guard, a ninja landed in front of them, and he was a chunin from Team 1, who until now had not appeared. "You finally arrived," said one of the Sand Village ninjas. "We had some trouble." He sighed, before continuing. "Anyway, I have to warn the others." He spoke as he passed by the sentinel and entered the place. "What happened to you?" a jonin asked immediately as the whole group looked at him immediately. "You finally arrived," said a ninja. "We thought you might already be dead," another spoke. "We were attacked." The ninja who had just entered replied. "What? They already know we're here?" spoke another, a bit surprised. "Yes. They ambushed us. I was the only one who managed to escape to bring this information to you." The chunin spoke as everyone became thoughtful. "Did they follow you?" the leader asked cautiously. "No." The chunin lied. "How many were there?" another asked. "Ninjas from Konoha, about 2 jonins." he reported. "We have to get out of here, pack up." The leader spoke, seeing that the mission was compromised. Meanwhile, on the outside, the chunins were a bit surprised as they heard the noise inside the cave. "This doesn't sound good." one replied. "We better see, Before he could answer, a man with red eyes landed with a sword and drove it into the chunin before he could react. The other tried to scream, but felt paralyzed as Nara used his shadow jutsu to immobilize his enemy, while the civilian jonin advanced before killing the last one. "We've eliminated the first, now there are 13 more left." the civilian spoke. "Don't worry, I've prepared a little something for them." The Uchiha spoke arrogantly. Inside the cave, they heard a sound from the entrance. They're here, you said they didn't follow you." The jonin angrily spoke to the chunin from Team 1. The chunin seemed quite calm with the accusation. "It's true," he said without lying now, leaving everyone looking at him stunned. "You betrayed us?" someone accused. "No, I'm being controlled by a Sharingan." The man spoke as he removed his vest and showed numerous paper bombs stuck to his body. Before anyone could react, seeing that with horror, they caught fire. Boomm. An explosion blew up in the middle of all those ninjas, making the cave tremble. "What have you done, Jiren?" The civilian jonin seemed horrified by that. "It was my gift." The Uchiha shrugged. "It doesn't matter now, we've reduced their force with that, now let's go in and finish this operation." Nara ordered, and they advanced into the site. Many of the ninjas were injured, unable to react to the explosion, while some were quick enough to create a barrier with an earth jutsu. "Are you all right?" the jonin asked some he managed to place behind his barrier. "We are, they caught us." Another spoke disheartened. "Help me," someone said as they saw a companion dying after being caught by the explosion, missing half his body. "Those damn ninjas!" the man growled before killing his companion as an act of mercy. "We should." Another jonin was about to speak angrily but was interrupted. "Watch out, they're coming." The lead jonin spoke as a blast of fire began to explode towards them at that moment amid all the debris while the Uchiha began the attack. He quickly made a seal while creating a stone wall rising from the ground. Meanwhile, on the side, another jonin appeared throwing kunais at them. Nara began to search for any other survivors while using his jutsu to trap them in his shadow in a field where he had the advantage despite some fire lighting the cave at that moment. From a distance, Minato and his team began to hear the sound of fighting coming from the site. "Do they need our help?" Hanabi asked. "We don't know, but let's just wait, our job is to ensure we catch all the enemy ninjas that escape." He spoke as the battle intensified inside the site. Boom! 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 Explosions erupted as smoke formed at the entrance with some ninjas escaping from the site. At least 6 of them were fleeing in many directions. The lead jonin is among them. Minato spoke, sensing in his haki a ninja even stronger than the others. "They got caught in the cave fighting others." Makoto noted seeing that the battle continued inside the site. Everyone split up. The Jonin spoke as Chunins and another Jonin tried to escape, leaving some companions who sacrificed themselves for them to flee. After all, what matters is the success of the mission. What are we going to do? Hanabi asked. Meanwhile, Minato cracked a smile. We're going to hunt them, of course. He said as he prepared to spring their traps they had set up in the forest during that time. Chapter 84, Mission Rank S09. Third-person POV. Fire Country, Year 36. Minato was feeling everyone through his haki while Hanabi tracked everyone with her Byakugan eyes. They had filled the blind spots of the sentries with traps before taking them down. A Chunin was jumping through the trees trying to escape when his foot hit a thin, nearly invisible rope, feeling something as a trap was activated at that moment. He saw a set of kunai flying towards him at that moment while he quickly dodged. After all, he was a Chunin and wouldn't fall for such a simple trap. However, on one of those kunai was the seal of Raijin, and before the ninja could react, Minato appeared and grabbed that kunai, cutting the ninja's throat. Makoto saw a Chunin heading towards the area where she had set traps and he passed through one, with some smoke bombs tied to the tree, exploding above him. What is this? He said in despair with his vision obscured while Makoto approached, summoning a shuriken from a scroll and throwing it into the smoke with the aid of her Sharingan. The Chunin soon noticed an attack coming and prepared as he saw from the smoke a giant ninja star coming his way while he prepared. He ducked from the shuriken, but soon noticed another one coming with Makoto using the Shadow Shuriken Jutsu, which made him jump in between the two, and as he passed, he felt new wires coming from the shuriken, and when he noticed, it was too late. After all, there was no way he could escape what Makoto was about to do. Pulling the wires she had attached to the two shurikens, they began to disassemble and Makoto pulled them, making the pieces of the throwing weapons return to the ninja still in the air. Makoto saw through her Sharingan the man being hit quickly and hitting his leg, back, and even his head, which made him die at that moment. It wasn't a pretty sight, but at least I eliminated him, Makoto commented looking at the falling body. A ninja triggered one of Makoto's traps as a rain of kunai fell on him, but he managed to escape while dodging. Damn Konoha ninjas. He cursed as he looked at the kunais passing by him. Hanabi saw the ninja escaping from her trap and got a little frustrated, but continued marking the various fleeing ninjas who were now 5 after her team eliminated 2. Minato quickly began to chase the remaining ninjas, multi-shadow clone jutsu. He crossed his fingers and 21 clones appeared, sending 4 clones before they left his hockey field and making them follow the enemy. Hanabi, don't lose sight of the Jonin leader, Minato told her while she nodded. The original Minato continued with her while all the ninjas escaped from their trap while spreading out, but some fell into some of them, but managed to circumvent or dodge. Makoto also joined her team as they followed the main ninja. Hold this kunai, I'll be back soon, Minato said while Makoto took his regular kunai with the Raijin symbol and disappeared. He returned to the side of one of his clones, while they chased a Jonin. The man, feeling the clones following him, stopped enraged to deal with that child. Clones? You're underestimating me, kid? He couldn't help but murmur angrily as he prepared for a taijutsu fight. 5 Minatos jumped on him at that moment, engaging in a taijutsu fight as he began to punch and kick the clones, but using Saro and Minato's natural body strength, the ninja was quite surprised while feeling the pressure of the boy surrounding him as he was hit from all sides. How can he be so fast? The Jonin exclaimed while defending from a kick towards his head, but feeling a huge pain in the chin as the original Minato kicked him from below. You think? The ninja tried to speak, but more clones began kicking him as he was lifted in the air with each kick received by his clones, and before he could react, the original Minato above him kicked him using Jeppo and Sara flying from top to bottom and hitting his face, making the ninja fly to the ground as his impact destroyed the ground with Minato's force. Boom! Minato felt the man losing consciousness and was satisfied as he landed. I copied that move from Naruto. I was lucky the Jonin underestimated me, otherwise, he would have backed off and used rank B or a jutsus, he murmured as he asked his clones to place a seal to detain him and put it on a scroll. Minato turned his attention to the other clones as he appeared on a battlefield. A clone was facing 2 Chunins who stopped to stare at the 4 Minatos, and both were casting their own jutsus. three Minato launched a torrent of fire against two torrents of wind created by the two ninjas, who, unlike Minato's last opponent, did not underestimate the child in front of them. Minato felt his clones losing chakra. After all, he had not distributed much to them and thought to act by catching the ninjas off guard while winning the jutsu contest due to the clones losing power. Minato threw a kunai into the air, which quickly appeared without the ninjas noticing above them and dropped to the ground, creating above the ninjas. Before they could realize, the kunai had already approached. Their jutsus were already devastating the other side while the clones began to be destroyed, soon cancelling their jutsu. Were they just clones? One of them asked, dazed. Where is the original? There were 4 of them. Another spoke, searching for the last clone, not knowing the original Minato was above them. Look out! The first warned with the kunai coming, and they were even more dazed with the boy from the clones appearing in front of them as he descended with a Rasengan in each hand, hitting the 2 ninjas from the sand village while exploding the ground, killing them instantly. Boom! Minato emerged from the destruction inside. He looked at the only clone left. Use the seal and bring him later, he advised before disappearing again. There was a Jonin escaping alone, while the 4 clones jumped trying to catch up to him without trying to hide, but this ninja did not stop trying to fight the clones while continuing through the forest. One of the clones disappeared and sent a shuriken at the ninja as he jumped, dodging the shuriken while it passed by him, but transforming into a Minato using a kunai and launching it at the ninja. Clever, the Jonin said as he used his kunai to defend with another kunai. However, when the 2 kunais collided, another clone of Minato appeared as he used a chidori to attack the ninja. But the Jonin was not just anyone, hitting Minato at that moment while the ninja disappeared with the jutsu he had created. The clone that launched the kunai was immediately hit by the Jonin, disappearing. Minato appeared between his 2 clones at that moment, gaining all the memories of his clones as he chased the ninja. He prepared a kunai with the seal, while throwing it at the ninja. Not this time, the ninja said as he exploded a smoke bomb, and Minato felt him through his haki, jumping off a waterfall they had arrived at. Minato landed in the river while in the midst of the smoke and exited the bomb area, having a view of a great height falling through the cliff below him while the ninja waited for him below already. What is he doing? Minato looked at the ninja as he began making a large amount of hand seals. He has an affinity for water? Minato was surprised to see a ninja from the land of wind with this kind of jutsu as 3 water dragons began emerging from the water below him going towards Minato and his clones. Minato thought while in the air making seals as well, since the enemy had water, he could use his lightning element as the jutsu he created. He completed the jutsu and exhaled a breath of lightning jutsu like he would a fire jutsu. With Tiger Snake Dragon. Lightning style, thundering wave. Minato exclaimed as he exhaled lightning from his mouth. The ninja was surprised by this as he saw his dragons collide with the lightning coming from the boy's mouth. The lightning didn't destroy the dragons, being a more powerful jutsu. However, their water body conducted the electricity to the ground, and before the ninja could react, he was affected by the electricity, making him tremble and lose focus of the water dragons as he fell to his knees paralyzed. I'm going to fall like this, to a kid? He couldn't help but murmur as he lost motor coordination of his body. Minato dodging the unfocused dragons now, he descended and struck the ninja with a Rasengan, who flew out of the waterfall, colliding with the trees of the forest and falling knocked out. Minato told his last clones to do the same as he did with the last ninjas and teleported from there, heading towards Makoto and Hanabi, feeling they were in trouble. After all, he had received the memories of his clones being destroyed by the Jonin leader, who was on the level of an elite Jonin. Minato appeared while Hanabi was down and Makoto was being kicked by the ninja. You think a bunch of kids can stop me? I am also a censor. I knew I was being followed from a distance by a Hyuga, he said, but then noticed Minato appearing above him with the kunai in Makoto's hands, receiving a kick from the boy, sending him to a certain distance. HM? You're the original of those clones I destroyed earlier. How did you appear out of nowhere? The ninja looked at Minato with some caution while rubbing his chest after the heavy kick from the boy. Minato did not respond, just staring at him while assessing the situation. Then he crossed his arms and 10 clones appeared at that moment, while the ninja quickly got into a fighting stance. 2 clones took care of picking up Makoto and Hanabi on the ground while the other 9 Minatos advanced, including with their original, to the ninja in a taijutsu fight. The ninja was surrounded by the genin as they fought in hand-to-hand combat. The ninja, as a censor, was dealing well with attacks from all sides while starting to dispose of more and more clones. However, the original Minato, having observation haki, was making it difficult for him. Minato threw kunais while the man caught one to defend from the projectiles, while the thrown kunais fell to the ground, and Minato, using a kunai, began to have a fight between the small blades as they fought frenetically. "You're good, kid, you're reading all my moves, but that won't make me lose." The ninja spoke as he opened an opening in Minato while he kicked him back. Minato felt the impact and, even in the air, launched his kunai. The kunai was defended, but there was a paper bomb on it while the ninja was surprised by that. After all, he felt the danger. The paper bomb exploded, while the area was destroyed, but only a log came out of there, with the ninja appearing on the other side after performing the substitution jutsu. He escaped, but it doesn't matter anymore, Minato murmured, and in front of him, 3 Konoha ninjas wearing Jonin vests appeared. After all, Minato left a clone in the cave to guide them in the direction where the Jonin had gone while Hanabi had eyes on him. "It looks like we arrived in time," said the Nara. "Let's have some fun, after all, your friends didn't last long." The Uchiha spoke with an arrogant smile. "Very good job, kid." The civilian ninja spoke with some pride. After all, even being children and genins, they were more than useful in this mission. Tisk, the enemy ninja, was frustrated by that. After all, now he had to face 3 Konoha ninjas, and it wouldn't be a simple fight, even for an elite Jonin against the 3, and even without knowing that he was the last standing of his group, he had to escape before being captured. "Raccoon here. Poor Hanabi, but I don't see her being very useful beyond her Byakugan. I'll have to have Minato work with her in the future so she can develop abilities that at least make her a powerful medium and long-range ninja." What do you guys think of this mission? Is it getting boring? I would like to know, because it still has a few chapters to go. After all, there will be a small war in the capital by the end of it. Chapter 85, Mission Rank S10. Third-person POV. Fire Country, Year 36. Jiraiya and Uchiha, Vayer Cole, and Kirill Nara were preparing to face the elite Jonin from the Land of Wind, while Minato and the girls moved away to a safe position from the fight as the older ninjas got ready for combat. The enemy Jonin wasted no time and began forming multiple hand signs, launching his jutsu. Wind style, Great Destruction. The Konoha Jonins watched the winds destroying everything in their path, while Vayer Cole, the civilian Jonin, quickly started forming his own hand signs, finishing and placing his palm on the ground. Earth style, Mud Wall, raising a wall from the earth as he defended against the wind pressure coming his way. The collision between the two jutsus created an explosive sound as the wall managed to withstand the launched jutsu well. As soon as the force of the wind calmed down, Jiraiya and Uchiha took the initiative with his Sharingan activated and jumped on top of the wall. Using his kunai, he advanced to face the Jonin at a distance, who didn't flee and decided to stay and fight. "It's just 3 Jonins and a bunch of brats. If I knew these were their reinforcements, I wouldn't have even left the cave while asking everyone to spread out. After all, I could easily take care of them," the ninja complained internally for having anticipated wrongly. After all, he was expecting a large group of ninjas, but he was mistaken. "Now what do we have here? Uchiha, the damn one who controlled our Chunin that started this mess," he murmured, waiting for the Uchiha to approach while preparing his kunai. The Nara Jonin climbed on top of a tree to analyze the situation before starting to launch his jutsu, Shadow Paralysis. The sound of kunais clashing was heard with the collision of the kunais against each other, as they started the fight. Despite the man appearing stronger than the Uchiha, he still had the advantage of the Sharingan, which anticipated the enemy's moves, but the man from the Land of Wind continued to stand firm. Vayer ran without wasting more time and also joined the battle, leaving the Wind Ninja at a numerical disadvantage while a taijutsu and kunai fight occurred. Seeing the pressure, the enemy ninja quickly made 2 clones to anticipate the Konoha ninjas, while giving back space and making a new set of hand signs again. Making Nara quickly try to act while launching his shadows through the ground, the man saw the shadows passing through the clones and trying to reach him, making him jump and look at him a bit surprised. "Nara, as expected, sneaky," he commented, already having some experience with men of this clan. He quickly completed the signs and launched another wind blast, catching both the Konoha Jonins while they were holding their clones, making the clones explode and retreat. Nara saw his companions having some trouble and caught them in the air. "Be careful," Nara commented after landing on the ground. "This enemy is much stronger than the others," he said, and quickly looked forward, sensing danger. Seeing that there were ninja stars with wind chakra circling them, making them as big and more deadly than a shuriken, flying towards them. Seeing this, they quickly jumped, avoiding the attack, but it wasn't just one, as there were at least 4 heading their direction, while the enemy ninja continued creating more as he blew on the small stars, forming a cutting wind around them, until being launched at their enemies from Konoha. The stars surrounded by wind chakra cut everything in their path, while the ninjas could only avoid them, dodging, as using their kunais wouldn't be very wise to stop this attack. One of the wind stars flew towards the genins at a distance, who were just watching the battle, making Minato act quickly, grabbing the clothes of Makoto and Hanabi and jumping in the air as the star passed by him. "We have to be careful," Minato commented to his companions, landing on another tree, as he saw the star destroying all the trees behind them. His colleagues couldn't even act in time, being quite stunned by the type of fight that was happening. Then, explosions began to occur with the exchange of jutsus, making Minato look back at the fight again. The Uchiha ninja launched a large amount of fire blast, knowing that the element could have an advantage against wind, since fire burns air. Meanwhile, the ninja from the land of wind had no choice but to make his windjutsu for the 3rd time while colliding with the fire and starting to lose. The Nara quickly attacked from the side, launching kunais with paper bombs, leaving the ninja dazed as the Uchiha's fire grew in front of him against his jutsu. He had to dodge explosions, stopping his jutsu casting and jumping backward. Boom! 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 The explosions from the paper bombs started occurring, as the fire began to consume that area, sending him flying backward, burning part of his body. The enemy jumped again to a tree, feeling his burning arm and looking angrily at the Konoha ninjas, but realized there were only 2 of them, with one missing, yet his senses already alerted him to where the 3rd was. Beside him, the civilian Jonin appeared, quickly using his kunai to try to hit him. The ninja, even injured, was quick to anticipate him with his senses. He dodged the kunai in the enemy's hand and quickly delivered a kick while slashing the chest with his not-so-injured arm. OHHH Vayer screamed in pain. This made his 2 companions frown. Seeing his colleague in that state and close to dying, the Uchiha shouted in anger as he advanced. "Wait, we can't act rashly," Nara exclaimed to his companion and tried to reason, but the Uchiha had already advanced, driven by anger. As the Uchiha advanced in anger, the ninja took advantage of this opening and quickly dodged his attack and counterattacked, without the Sharingan of the enemy being able to react. He struck the Uchiha for being so careless. As he kicked him hard, the ninja fell to the ground with a small explosion creating a hole with his body, while Vayer was falling injured and looking at it with teeth clenched in pain. The Wind Ninja ignored Vayer and advanced against the Uchiha on the ground, who was his priority at the moment, entering the smoke the created hole formed to finish off the Uchiha. As he approached the Konoha ninja, a shadow emerged and held him to the ground in the midst of the dust cloud. Nara had acted quickly and had caught him, to save his companion. However, as the dust settled while the Jonin was trapped, the man just smiled at Nara, making him frown. "He's in danger," Minato exclaimed as he jumped forward while his companions couldn't even react. The body of the Wind Ninja transformed into smoke, leaving Nara surprised, wondering when he had made a clone. Before he could react, the ninja appeared beside him, grabbing him by the neck and immobilizing him in the air. "Damn!" was the only thing Nara could say while feeling the hands tightening around his neck. "It's not the first time I've killed a Nara, I know how to deal with you," the Wind Ninja spoke. Despite being a bit injured, he seemed convinced of his victory. "I anticipated that you would try to prevent me from killing your companion, so I ignored that ninja I cut across the chest and advanced on the Uchiha. When I entered the smoke, I created a clone and hid, waiting for you to trap my clone. After all, you don't have special eyes or are a sensor." The ninja mocked. "Now you and your companions will die," the ninja commented, without any emotion in his voice. As he began to squeeze Nara's neck to break it, a kunai flew towards him, making him move his head as the kunai lodged into the wood of the tree behind him. And he looked at the blonde ninja with a smile. "I may have lost my companions, but at least I will kill all of you. And don't forget, I am a censor. I can know in advance everything that happens around me," he said. He continued, "Now I will kill all these and go after you, kid," he spoke, as Nara was already starting to lose consciousness with the pressure. However, his eyes opened wide as Minato simply disappeared in front of him. That again? He thought, remembering that Minato had appeared out of nowhere while he was hitting the 2 children before. When he sensed Minato again, time had stopped for the ninja, while he was surprised and unable to react as Minato was behind him already kicking him. The kunai, there's something in it, was his only thought, but he had no idea of the flying thunder god technique as he suffered the attack without knowing where he had gone wrong. Without reacting, he felt a kick pierce his chest, as his bones broke, burying him with the force of Minato's strike, along with the kick at the speed of light, sending the ninja flying, breaking part of the trees as he made his way through the forest with his own body, his body starting to break even more with all the force of the impact. Minato, not wanting to act this way, had no choice. After all, the ninjas had failed to defeat that elite jonin, which made Minato wonder why he didn't stay in the cave, since there he had his companions and could have easily won against everyone. However, in the end, Minato just struck him using a bit of his powers, saving the Konoha ninjas. Makoto approached with Hanabi, looking at the sight. There was an injured civilian ninja looking at the destruction Minato caused, and the Uchiha lying on the ground, feeling his body broken in several parts. Meanwhile, Nara was lying on the ground unconscious after being suffocated by the enemy's hand. It looks like we're done here, Minato sighed as he approached the jonin he had thrown more than 50 meters away with his unrestrained kick through a path of fallen trees and broken ground. He quickly began to immobilize the man with seals, putting him in a state where he couldn't escape, as he had done with the others before, while hoping he wouldn't die. After all, he seemed quite serious, and bringing him back alive was essential for the mission. The Uchiha emerged from the hole injured, looking a bit surprised as he saw Minato immobilizing the jonin from a distance. Then, he went to check on his companions to see if they were okay. First, he saw Nara lying down, touching his neck and seeing he was just unconscious, while the civilian clenched his teeth, feeling pain, but still awake. "It's over, let's take him to the medic," the Uchiha said. Despite his arrogant personality, he still seemed to care about his village companions. He looked at the children and at Minato. "We should first regroup, until Nara wakes up, since he's the smartest among us. Now, you can carry him while we look for a healer for our companions," he said. Minato nodded, storing the scroll until Nara woke up. The Uchiha picked up his civilian companion, and Minato carried the unconscious Nara on his back. The girls followed right behind, as Minato returned to the city along with the Uchiha. It was only after they organized themselves and found a healer in the city that Nara regained consciousness again after an hour. "You finally woke up," the Uchiha approached. "What happened?" Nara asked, feeling a headache. "We're saved, somehow," the Uchiha spoke in a neutral tone, still remembering that Minato had done something to change the tide of the lost battle. "How's our companion?" he asked about the civilian. "We found a healer in the city who managed to stop his bleeding, but he won't be able to continue on the mission in that state. He should return to the village," the Uchiha commented. "I see, and our enemy?" he asked. "Sealed, the Namikaze kid did something to take him down. You had to see the state he was left in when you were about to have your neck broken, but I couldn't see anything in that hole. I dislocated my shoulder and an arm with that, while I have 3 broken ribs," the Uchiha complained a bit. "This is confusing, but let's review this later. Now let's see how the mission is going. Call everyone." "I want a brief report," Nara said, and the Uchiha nodded, calling all the genins, since Vare was unconscious in his bed. Chapter 86, Mission Rank S11. Third-person POV. Fire Country, Year 36. Minato and the others continued making their way to the northern meeting town. As the Nara led the small group of genin, he approached Minato. "I heard you defeated the elite jonin and saved our lives." Unable to hold back the doubt swirling in his head any longer, he asked, trying to understand how this boy managed to defeat someone whom even with his entire team fighting against, were defeated. The Nara hoped to find some answers, the only witnesses being his civilian colleague and the girls. Minato looked at him as he leaped between trees, saying, "I was lucky. I took advantage of a moment when he was occupied and got close before he could react." Minato offered an excuse. Jonin Nadara, on the other hand, just looked at him, indicating she wasn't convinced by that story. After all, the ninja was a censor. There was no way a genin could get close without him being able to react in time, but she didn't ask any further, setting aside whatever that boy had done. At least it was for the good of the mission. Not only had the boy taken down that ninja, but somehow all those who fled, which left him even more amazed because that boy could do things that even they, at their level, could not. But he would respect if the boy wanted to keep his secrets, since he saved the mission, his life, and the lives of his comrades. They continued until they stopped at a place to camp for the night, the city being too far away. Minato set up a tent and took a night shift, while the others did the same. It was the next day that they continued their journey and finally arrived in the city region by noon. There was a bird circling a spot, indicating it was the meeting point. "Let's go there," the Jonin said, and they began to enter the place, which was outside the city, to avoid attracting attention, while Team 2 was gathered with another 2 individuals who had just arrived from the warfront. The 4 landed looking at all of them, who were waiting for them. The Nara was the first to approach. Minato and his companions looked closely at the team in front of them. Team 2 hadn't changed much, while the Hyuga brothers maintained their usual reserved posture along with their sensei, and the Inuzuka girl kept her arms crossed and a fierce look. Meanwhile, the 2 new individuals were those who had been summoned from the front line at the border by the Hokage himself to assist on the mission, one unknown blonde man, but the other Minato and even the girls knew very well. After all, he had been their second-year teacher at the academy, who even helped with a Fuinjutsu scroll at the beginning, when Minato was just starting to learn, which surprised him with Kui Aburame's presence here. "Finally arrived, any problems with your team?" My Hyuga, the leader of Team 2, asked, looking at Kuril Nara alone without his complete team. "We had a problem and one of mine was hospitalized," the Nara replied as the 6 curious eyes were looking. "So you had more success than us. We encountered 2 enemy Chunin and 3 enemy Genin from the Stone Village," Mai declared, and turned his attention to the Genins. "Jiraiya went to the capital. Did you take over the leadership of his team?" he asked. "No, the boy here is their leader, and he's doing it very well." The Nara spoke with a bored tone of his clan. "Anyway, let's start the introductions," he said, looking at the new Jonins while everyone had their eyes on Minato at this moment. "Gr." The blonde cleared his throat and began to introduce himself. "We just came from the front line for this S-rank mission. I am Hikari Yamanaka, assigned to investigate the enemies with my clan's techniques," he said while looking at his frontline colleague. "Well, many of you already know me. I am Kui Aburame. I specialize in tracking, and have spent several years on a special Ambu team," he said, turning his attention to Minato. "I've heard a lot about you, kid. I knew you were special, but after what I've heard, it seems I underestimated you," he said. After all, the new batch of Genins was a hot topic at the front line, as more and more arrived from the village, and Minato, among all, was the one who stood out the most. After all, he was the record holder. Everyone was looking forward to seeing his contributions in the war. "Thank you, Kui-sensei. It's good to see you after such a long time," Minato commented. "Well, anyway, let's talk about the mission," the Nara spoke, interrupting any casual conversation. He took the scrolls from all the ninjas that Minato had captured and continued. "We'll need a place to gather all their information in an interrogation with Yamanaka, and we should choose something inside the city," he said. "Don't worry about that, I've got a warehouse in the city to hold our prisoners, we can go there," Mai commented, and Kuril nodded. "Great, let's go there. Show the way." Kuril Nara spoke and the Hyuga sensei nodded, leaping towards the city while the others followed him. It didn't take long to arrive at an abandoned warehouse within a less busy part of the city, and they entered the place full of traps, while there were 4 people tied up inside. After all, Team 2 had no Fuinjutsu specialist to seal them in scrolls and seals. Kuril started to take out the scrolls and handed them to Minato, who began to remove the seals. "So you became a Fuinjutsu specialist at this age?" Kui couldn't help commenting. After all, he helped Minato at the beginning of his study with the seals. "I had to dedicate many years to this, but I'm trying to become a master," Minato responded sincerely while taking the bodies out of the scrolls, and he began to tie them up while Minato placed some seals for security. The elite Jonin was the most injured among them, but they managed to reverse his situation so that he wouldn't die. Now they had to extract all his information. Well, Hikari began approaching the elite Jonin. "This is going to take some time, but as I gather information, we'll be able to act. I'll spend the entire night looking for information and will pass on what I find to the others. Kui will stay with me," he commented. All right, said the Nara as he turned his attention to the others. Let's find an inn in the city and we'll meet here tomorrow when I call you, he said, and Minato with his team left to find a place to stay for the night. Minato. Minato was heading to his room when he heard a voice calling him. Yes, Hanabi? He asked as the girl seemed hesitant. I was the only one who didn't help much, my traps didn't work and even from a distance, I was discovered by the elite ninja. She commented. We were fighting against Chunins and Jonins, don't put so much pressure on yourself. Minato commented, after all, it was almost impossible for a group of genins to catch ninjas of that caliber. But you and even Makoto were more useful. She couldn't help murmuring. Minato heard that and sighed. How about this, when we return to Konoha? I'll help you improve your arsenal with a mid and long-range jutsu. Minato spoke, and the girl hearing this, nodded finally, going to her room. Minato had his rest and saw that no one called him, created some clones to study Fuinjutsu that morning, and it was only in the middle of the night that Nara appeared. You must go now, call your companions, he spoke and disappeared. Minato left the room and called his companions, as they followed to the meeting place, where everyone was already gathered. Minato looked at Team 2, they hadn't interacted with each other since the incident, the Hyuga didn't seem to look at him anymore. Well, I guess you're all here. Let's start, said Nara. It's quite concerning, began Hikari Yamanaka. After hours studying the mind of the elite Jonin, especially, I couldn't get into all his information. It seems he has a lot of information blocked and it will take me a bit more time to acquire everything. However, what I discovered is still quite concerning, he said, looking at everyone present. They changed their initial plans after a team disappeared in the south, he said, and Minato thought he was the reason for that over a week ago. Their current plan is to create chaos in several cities to advance towards the capital while the military force is at the border. Many mercenaries and ninjas would have to leave the capital, leaving it vulnerable to an attack. Their goal is as we suspected, they want to capture the daimyo and use him as a means to create an advantage for them in the war. We still do not know which city will be attacked, but we must stay alert, Nara began to speak, as he took a scroll and placed it into the mouth of a frog beside him, which Jiraiya had prepared to receive any real-time information from the mission. After all, he was the leader of the mission. Tomorrow, I want you to leave this city and spread out to all the others, looking for any target, Nara spoke, as everyone nodded. Minato and his companions left the place. Prepare your things, we're leaving today, he quickly warned his companions. All right. Makoto did not question, and Hanabi just nodded. They returned to the inn and quickly organized their things before starting to leave, exiting the city and heading to the region Kiryl Nara had designated for them. They went out to the west looking for signs of enemies on that side of the capital and followed through the rest of the afternoon as it began to get dark, choosing a place to camp and the next day continuing the journey. It was only by noon that they finally began to arrive at the location, but there was something happening there, given the huge smoke rising into the skies in the distance. Minato quickly turned his attention to Hanabi. What is that? He asked as the girl looked at the location with her Byakugan activated. Hanabi looked closely, her eyes widening in surprise. The city, it's being attacked, she said. Minato narrowed his eyes. Let's go, he said, and the three immediately headed to the location. Chapter 87, Mission Rank S12. Third-person POV. Fire Country, Year 36. The trees swayed gently as Team 7 used them to propel their speed, heading at high velocity towards the city. Explosions were occurring at the location as they drew ever closer. Minato turned to Hanabi by his side. Can you see what's happening? Who and how many enemies are there? Minato asked. Hanabi, who had her eyes on the city the entire time since it came into range, had seen two groups of ninjas, one in the city center creating even greater chaos, and a group on the southern side of the city with fewer ninjas but still killing citizens while also destroying the place. Hanabi began relaying this information to Minato. There are at least 20 enemy ninjas in the city. They don't wear headbands but use Earth-style jutsus. There are many Jonins among them from what I can see, she said. This is very bad. Minato frowned, after all, he could not handle them all alone, not without using all his power, something he did not intend to do and could not risk his team's life. He then thought of another solution. Reaching into his pocket, he pulled out a plain kunai with the Raijin seal. "Catch this," he said, throwing the knife to Makoto, who caught it, and Minato disappeared a moment later, reappearing again with a man surprised by this. Jiraiya was in the middle of a meal with his ramen in the room when Minato appeared without caring if he would be seen using this jutsu by others. After all, this was an emergency, but there was no one else but Jiraiya in the room. Minato threw another kunai in the room to return later and grabbed him, activating his jutsu, using a large amount of chakra with it. He also knew that from what Yamanaka had said, they would first create a distraction to weaken the capital's forces before starting the main attack, so there wouldn't be an attack so soon and Jiraiya could be taken for a moment. But what the? Jiraiya, caught and brought here, was surprised by his student's appearance and couldn't even react when he grabbed him and disappeared. He barely stepped on the tree without stumbling and looked at Minato asking for an explanation. "Sorry, I thought, but we need you here," he said as Jiraiya finally looked towards the city. "As you can see, just the three of us can't handle this," he continued, and Jiraiya understood the situation. "Well, this is certainly an emergency," he said in a more serious tone and began to stabilize. He had received news from his frog yesterday, so he was somewhat aware of the situation. "Hanabi-san, tell me what you see," he immediately asked while she relayed what she had mentioned to Minato. "This is certainly bad, let's do this." Jiraiya didn't hesitate and quickly began to coordinate his team. "You go to the weaker group, I trust Minato can pull you out if you're in danger. Leave everyone in the middle area of the city to me. Remember, if it gets too dangerous, don't hesitate to run," Minato warned. After all, this was not a task for genins. Everyone nodded as they finally arrived at the city walls and took different paths. The city was in complete chaos, people running scared, while sounds of explosions occurred with tremors at the locations of the attacks. The stone ninjas were using earth jutsus to modify and destroy places, devastating everything, while using kunais with explosive tags to blow up houses and create even more chaos in the city, igniting large fires. Minato, Makoto, and Hanabi arrived at a building somewhat distant from that group. There were many chunins and one jonin there. "Ha ha ha ha. Take this." A stone ninja, despite not wearing a headband, it was obvious his origin, as he made hand seals and the terrain in front of him began to devastate, catching citizens running while they were buried and crushed without hesitation as the ninja behaved like a psychopath, killing people who could not defend themselves. "Those bastards," Makoto murmured angrily. "We should stop them. Let's go," Minato said, running towards the location as his companions followed him. He quickly looked at Hanabi. "I used a part of my chakra picking up Jiraiya from the capital, so I want to combine a fire jutsu with Makoto. Hanabi, open up a closed terrain so we can launch a jutsu together," Minato exclaimed. Hanabi, hearing this, nodded, stepping forward with more force and taking the lead as she leaped ahead. The enemies quickly noticed the girl with white eyes moving on the destroyed terrain as they jumped together in the air, and as soon as she landed, her palm also touched the ground, completing the jutsu. Hanabi didn't skimp on chakra here and started the jutsu that began to open up the area, creating a kind of trench while the stone ninjas went on alert with ninja reinforcements arriving without them noticing. "Stay alert," the jonin quickly shouted, and when he saw the other two stopping on a building above the girl, he saw them begin to make a set of seals together. "It's 2 kids, not 3. He noted, a bit surprised by the audacity of it. As soon as Minato and Makoto finished the seals, he began to initiate the attack, fire style, great annihilation by fire, both fired together, spewing a line of fire that exploded as it passed over Hanabi on the ground. Minato might have more chakra than Makoto, but she had more mastery in fire techniques to a small degree, and Minato needed to conserve chakra after picking up Jiraiya in the capital. Both were exerting themselves in these jutsus, trying to maintain the same amount of fire, trying to balance the 2 flames so neither would overpower the other as they continued spewing. The focus went into the trench created by Hanabi after raising 2 walls on each side. The flames began to crawl through the trench, destroying and digging the ground, moving towards the ninjas caught off guard by it. "This has a great range. We must protect ourselves," the jonin exclaimed immediately. Everyone made hand seals, creating a barrier that rose from the ground like a cocoon between them. The fire exploded, hitting the walls of Hanabi's jutsu, while increasing even more in force. After all, it was more concentrated this way instead of spreading as it would normally. Soon the area glowed with flames, blocking the view to the naked eye of Minato, the only one there without a Dojutsu, but hearing some stone explosions as the fire tried to penetrate their defenses. There were some dead citizens on the ground while the flames caught them as well, but there was nothing to do but just try to kill those who were devastating the city. The fire began to concentrate, spreading in the place while everything was burning. It was only after a while with the flames calming down that the stone cocoon appeared. Some of the smaller cocoons, created by ninjas alone, did not have a good end. After all, everything saw the destroyed cocoons and the ninjas inside were charred and dead. Minato nodded and began to scan the area with his haki and quickly looked as a stone ninja emerged from the ground. Hanabi looked down, not very surprised. Her eyes had already seen the enemy approaching. She prepared by raising her hands and let chakra flow from them. Using the Hyuga technique, she generated a chakra sphere, with the Hyuga technique and catching the ninja before he could get any closer, making him fall to the opposite side screaming. Minato sighed, seeing that Hanabi took care of the man, and looked ahead while in one of the cocoons that managed to stay firm, the ninjas were performing jutsus. The ground began to crack trying to kill these children after seeing that their surprise attack had not worked. The ground exploded at this moment, causing the house where Minato and Makoto were to collapse. "Help Hanabi," he said while Makoto descended and helped her companion. Minato began to jump among the stones raised with the jutsu, stepping between them in the air, advancing against the stone ninjas. The Jonin saw the blonde-haired boy approaching. "What a fool, he thinks he can advance so easily," he commented as he began to make a jutsu. "Earth style, Earth Dragon Bomb," he said, creating a moist earth dragon and launching it against Minato. Minato made a set of seals with his hands as well. Wind style, Great Destruction. A wind stood in front of him without him needing to blow. The two forces clashed against each other while the wind and the dragon contested each other. The stone ninjas took advantage of this moment and advanced against Minato from beneath the earth. He had to cancel his wind jutsu while dodging a man emerging from the ground with a kunai. After all, he didn't want to show his body of light to the enemy. As his jutsu lost strength and the lava dragon advanced against him, Minato took the opportunity to kick a chunin, breaking his neck instantly, leaving the others a bit surprised by their companion dying from a kick by a child. Minato landed on the ground. Seeing the dragon approaching rapidly, he grabbed a kunai and threw it at the enemies, which ended up hitting the wall that Hanabi had created. As the dragon approached, all the stone ninjas saw exactly as the dragon collided with it on the ground and exploded. They believed Minato had not used any substitution jutsu, confident that he had been hit. "Did we finish him?" asked a chunin angrily. "I hope so. What does Konoha give these kids?" Another spoke. "We still have two to deal with," said the Jonin. However, before they could react, Minato was already behind one of them, plunging his kunai into his neck, and the others only saw their friend die surprised. Minato had used his Raijin on the kunai with a seal on the wall to escape from the dragon at the last millisecond. He didn't stop and was already atop others, beginning to cut them down. When he had killed two more, they backed away from the boy. "That bastard! How did he appear behind us?" a chunin shouted frustrated. "What's going on?" The Jonin murmured somberly looking at Minato, like all the ninjas who encountered the boy using Raijin and did not know what that technique was, especially with a child performing it. There were still 3 more ninjas while Minato had eliminated 3 and Hanabi one that had approached her before. Besides what the 3 combined did catching the stone ninjas off guard with the earth and fire jutsu, eliminating at least 4 of them. The girls approached while Makoto sent a shuriken at the ninjas. While they easily defended against it, Minato analyzed the situation and made 3 clones, each one going towards an enemy. "Can you cast a fire jutsu?" Minato asked Makoto, who nodded. The girl sensed while making a smaller scale fire jutsu, but nearly exhausting all her chakra doing so. She finished her hand seals and released her hot breath. While Minato's clones had trouble dealing with the ninjas, the flames began to cover them, catching the clones and striking the ninjas. The Jonin quickly acted, making hand seals and creating a barrier between his companions. The flames hit the wall without crossing it. "Damn, how can children be so persistent?" He murmured frustrated. After all, most of his team had died to brats. "Let's kill them," they can't have so much chakra left, another spoke. Minato, outside seeing this, advanced against the wall while his hand formed chakra. He jumped, creating a Rasengan and continuing to make it increase in size. Every moment it grew and the girls saw the huge sphere that Minato used against Minato in the bell test, but slightly smaller, reaching the size of a 2-meter diameter Udama Rasengan against the enemy's flaming barrier. The stone ninjas, having no sensor among them, could not react when the huge Rasengan exploded the barrier with pure chakra, penetrating easily as the ninjas saw that enormous sphere coming towards them with Minato guiding it. Boom! A huge explosion occurred, starting there and expanding in all directions while even the barrier created by Hanabi at the beginning broke, sending pieces of rocks in all directions, colliding with the nearest houses in the city. Minato emerged as the dust settled, standing in the middle of all that chaos, with bodies of stone ninjas on the ground. He was quite exhausted. After all, he had used a lot of chakra in that fight, as had his companion. "We're done here. Now let's go to Sensei and see how he's doing," Minato said as the two nodded and advanced towards the city center where an explosion had just occurred, while Jiraiya fought with the largest group of enemies. Chapter 88 Mission Rank S13. Third-person POV. Fire Country, Year 36. As Minato and the others approached, Jiraiya was facing several ninjas at once, creating clones to protect the citizens. Jiraiya rushed to protect a mother and son as the ground exploded with a jutsu from the enemies targeting the original body. "You must leave." The clone spoke as the citizens began running out of the area, and the clone went to search for more victims. Meanwhile, the original Jiraiya landed on top of a house at that moment with a kunai in hand, looking down at the ninjas amid all the destruction, having at least taken down 4 ninjas. "Damn, this guy, he's too strong," one of the sand ninjas complained. "Who is this?" another asked. "How did he get here?" he continued to curse. After all, this was supposed to be a simple mission. "This is Jiraiya," one of them recognized, due to the fame Jiraiya had beyond the borders of the Fire Country. "Jiraiya?" Another was surprised by this. "Yes, one of the 3 students of the Hokage of Konoha," he said with a furrowed brow. "I see I'm famous." Jiraiya couldn't help commenting with a small smile despite the chaos. "This is bad. It seems that Konoha managed to send more reinforcements than we thought. Do they know about our plans?" the ninja murmured to the side. Meanwhile, another looked towards the south side of the city, where the sound of explosions had stopped. "Something happened there, those flames. It seems we lost all our ninjas on this side," he spoke, as everything went silent after several explosions with flames rising through the air. Knowing none of their ninjas could create fire, it meant that Konoha had also attacked that team and it hadn't ended well for them. "We should retreat," the leader of the group spoke, knowing they couldn't deal with the ninja in front of them. Even with the numbers they had, it would be risky for any of them to be captured and have information extracted from them. He spoke and a group of ninjas began making hand seals. Jiraiya, seeing this, also started making hand seals for a jutsu. "Fire style, flame bomb." He shouted and launched a torrent of fire using a large amount of chakra to match the enemy, while the ninjas tried to create a mud wave with 4 of them performing jutsu at the same time. The fire and mud advanced against each other, catching several houses and buildings of the city in their path until they collided. However, Jiraiya couldn't fight for long against a jutsu made by 4 people and soon lost the impact of his jutsu, with the mud advancing towards him. The ninjas saw the mud advancing, exploding at the spot where Jiraiya was, and the next moment, noticed something strange on the ground quickly. With 2 jumping away and the other 2 getting caught by a mud field, sinking their feet into it before they could react, Jiraiya appeared, having used substitution to escape from the enemy's jutsu and quickly executed his earth-style, Black Swamp. With the ninjas trapped in the ground, he took his kunai and advanced on them, slashing their throats with a kunai, eliminating 2 more, totaling 6 of them altogether, with most being jonin. "Retreat," the leader spoke. He wanted to first create a distraction, but seeing that this was not working, they began to try to retreat, escaping the site. "Use the distraction jutsu," he ordered while having 7 more of their ninjas. They began making hand seals while jumping across the roof with Jiraiya in pursuit. "Earth-style, dust cloud jutsu." They completed the jutsu with their hands and began blowing towards Jiraiya, creating a dust cloud being made from their mouths and engulfing the entire city with it, completely blocking the view, despite Jiraiya being a sensor and still continuing to pursue, still having a bit more difficulty. Jiraiya-sensei, in the midst of all that dust, Minato finally appeared, exhausted without chakra after the fight, along with his companions who were not much different from him at that moment. "Kid, you finally came," Jiraiya smiled as Minato approached. "We have to catch them," he commented. "Jiraiya-sensei, I have a plan," Minato suddenly spoke. Jiraiya looked at him, attentive, as Minato began to explain what he had in mind. Watching, Jiraiya in the end agreed. "That's not bad, in fact, it will give us an advantage." "Alright, kid, let's do it that way," he said, impressed. Minato tossed a kunai to him, and Jiraiya kicked off the roof, advancing even faster as he approached the ninja who seemed to be the leader, since he had more chakra. It wasn't difficult to reach him without conserving his last reserves. He began to approach the group of enemies passing the wall and performed a jutsu in the air, unleashing a blast of wind forward, catching the ninjas who were fleeing the city by surprise. While they stabilized after losing some balance from the wind, Jiraiya wasn't doing this to stop them, but to distract them. While Minato observed everything in his field of haki, the enemy leader quickly recovered. "Let's go," he said, but felt a presence behind him with Jiraiya approaching, making him scared. But suddenly, Jiraiya changed as he disappeared, and in his place, a small Minato using one of his last reserves of chakra, switching places with Jiraiya. The enemy ninja couldn't react with this child so close and took a punch to the rib, breaking a few. "Where did this ninja come from?" he growled as he fell backwards before trying to stabilize with the broken rib. "This bastard," he said, but didn't stay long, quickly advancing out of the city, trying to escape. Jiraiya and Minato didn't pursue them further, just watched them flee while the girls landed near them now that they had caught up. "Well, it looks like you did it," Jiraiya asked. "Yes, I managed to place the seal on him," Minato spoke while keeping an eye on the ninja, without him realizing, being able to appear beside him and kill him at any moment, but he didn't do it now, he was waiting for him to lower his guard while heading to their hideout. "Great, let's wait a while. Meanwhile, let's help the city," Jiraiya ordered while they nodded. Minato was exhausted, out of chakra, so he needed to rest a bit, but could still help pull people from the rubble with his physical strength. They spent the next 2 hours removing people from the debris, while Hanabi used her remaining chakra to free people trapped under the rubble, still alive or in destroyed grounds and demolished houses with earth jutsu. The mood was somber as they tried to help, but it was understandable to see something like this in a destroyed city. People were crying for their relatives, some even snarling at the ninjas from Konoha, saying they brought the war to them. However, Minato and Jiraiya maintained a calm look, while Hanabi and Mito were a bit saddened by the sight they were seeing, even feeling a bit guilty. "This is war, unfortunately, this is how the world works," Jiraiya commented, wanting to teach his students. "This is the cycle of hatred that forms, people kill each other and new people seek revenge for those killed, this is the vicious cycle that this world faces," he concluded. Minato nodded, understanding what that meant while Hanabi and Makoto had confused eyes. Jiraiya turned to him. "How are you?" he asked. "I'm better." Minato spoke, feeling that he could teleport someone with him if the distance wasn't too far. "Alright, no rush, but we can, and if you want," he spoke. "Okay, Mito and Hanabi, you'll stay here. Wait for us and use the chakra in the seal if you need me," Minato spoke, knowing they could be in a bad situation if a group of powerful ninjas returned to that city, which was unlikely, but you never know. After they nodded, Minato approached Jiraiya, while they were getting ready, grabbing a kunai and preparing for the attack. Minato placed his hand on Jiraiya's shoulder and disappeared with him. Elsewhere, a few dozen kilometers away, the sand and stone ninjas regrouped at a distant location. They were gathered only with the 7 who remained, quite discouraged after losing much more than half of their squad. Of the 20, 13 had died, which was frustrating. "Damn, that was a big failure." "This will be harder than we thought," the leader commented, still feeling his broken rib. "But don't you find it strange, they let us go so easily?" A jonin from the group commented. "I also found it strange," the leader said, but saw no plausible reason for them to let them go without pursuit. "Speaking of which, did you see how that boy switched places with the Konoha ninja? What was that jutsu?" another asked. "It was quite strange, But I don't know of anything that can do that. We should just report back to the others in our village, the leader said, unaware of the mark on his rib as he fought against the pain, since there was no living medical ninja among them. I hope the others are doing better. We're reaching the final phase of the mission, one of them commented. Let's wait until we meet the others later, the leader said, but something happened at that moment. Before anyone in the group could react, two people appeared out of nowhere, and the leader could only see that foot coming towards him before Minato hit his throat, knocking him unconscious to the ground. What? The stone ninjas barely had time to react as Jiraiya was already advancing and Minato right behind. They tried to prepare for this surprise attack while a small battle began in that underground hideout created by a jutsu of the stone ninjas, but they didn't even have time to perform a jutsu to fight against this master and sensei, with them taking down all of them easily. It didn't take long for the whole place to fall silent, as Minato and Jiraiya stood over 6 fallen enemies. They hadn't killed any, wanting to extract all their secrets. Jiraiya turned with a smile to Minato, while Minato was kneeling on the ground, finally able to rest as he breathed with some difficulty due to his lack of chakra. Well, kid, looks like we did it, he said with satisfaction, while Minato just nodded his head. I guess so, he murmured. Don't worry, you can rest. I'll handle the rest, Jiraiya said, as he began to perform the final jutsu that Minato was learning to use on their prisoners. Finally, they began to exit the place, with Jiraiya making a series of earth seals to create a path out of that location. They were finally out, with Jiraiya and Minato returning to the city with the prisoners inside scrolls, jumping between trees. Since Minato hadn't recovered any of his chakra to use the Raijin on 2 people, he had fought using only taijutsu relying on his physical strength. However, they won easily, due to the surprise attack they had launched. Team 7, at least, managed to eliminate a group of ninjas infiltrated in the Fire Country, but the mission was not yet over. Chapter 89, Mission Rank S14. Third-person POV. Fire Country, Year 36. Minato and Jiraiya finally returned to the city, having been at least 100 kilometers away, and found Hanabi and Makoto still helping civilians who needed assistance. Great, let's organize things before we meet up with the others, Jiraiya said as he summoned a small frog and passed information to the Jonins in the capital about their situation while keeping a frog there to alert them if the city were attacked. In the next few hours, they tried to help as many citizens as possible, sending some messages to Konoha about the mission and requesting at least Jonins to help them. Eventually, after some time, they began to leave the city heading east to meet the rest of the group. Jiraiya had not returned, and even as Minato began to recover over the next few hours, he decided to stay with his team due to the level of the mission. They did not take long to reach the city, and Minato led them to the shed where Yamanaka was still examining the elite genin while being surrounded by the mission's ninjas. The Nara looked at the door at that moment and towards the Aburame, who just nodded, indicating that everything was okay with his insects. Then Jiraiya entered through the door along with his 3 students. Hello, he greeted them. Jiraiya, what a surprise you're here. Kirill Nara said as everyone was also surprised. I had to deal with a situation in the east with my students, he said. Then there was more than one city attacked? Mai Hyuga asked. As Jiraiya nodded, Minato noticed that in Team 2, only 2 people were missing. Hisashi was absent, but it was not just that. Hayashi had bandages on his body and Sume Izuka had a splint on her arm with her own sensei also slightly injured. It was clear that they had also entered a battle like Minato and the others, but given the somber mood of the place, it didn't seem to have ended well for them. Jiraiya put his hand on his chin and became thoughtful. I will be operating the mission here, but you still assume the role of intelligence while Yamanaka is responsible for continuing to collect information. I read the report from before, but what happened to you after that? Give me all the information about what's happening? Jiraiya said, and Nara nodded. Yes, Jiraiya, it turns out there were multiple attacks in several cities. Unfortunately, we couldn't stop all the attacks and 2 cities were attacked by ninjas from the country of the wind. We only managed to stop some members due to having many Jonins, and they escaped after injuring many members of our side, but fortunately, no one died. And how was it on your side? He asked after responding, looking between Jiraiya and even Minato, who was trying to lead his group before Jiraiya. We also had an attack in the western area, but we managed to stop the group, but not before they destroyed a good part of the city. We caught the main members of the group, and hope you could investigate them as well. they are ninjas from the stone. They are carrying out attacks in multiple regions to divide the attention, the Jonin Hyuga commented. And that's exactly what they want, started the Yamanaka. But it won't last long, after all, they have to act fast before Konoha sends war reinforcements if they want to capture the daimyo, he finished. How is the security of the capital? The Nara asked Jiraiya. Besides my team, there are a few elite Jonins along with the daimyo that Konoha sent at the start of the war to protect him, Jiraiya said. This is bad, let's hope to receive more information about the next attacks. Kui Aburame said. I want you investigating all the information about these ninjas, Jiraiya told Yamanaka, who nodded. Aburame, I want you to investigate the trail left by the ninjas of the wind, while Team 2 recovers, but return to the field as soon as you can to support them. My team and I will perform the execution of the hideouts and ninjas you found, Jiraiya said as everyone nodded. Meanwhile, kilometers away, inside an ancient crater filled with roots and trees made many years ago, a group of dozens of ninjas was meeting at this moment. Some were injured, but still with frustrated expressions after the last attack they had to face against Team 2. Damn, so where did these reinforcements come from? One of them complained. It seems Konoha has already figured out our plan. No wonder we lost contact with the southern team over a week ago and another team in the southwest city a few days ago, and it looks like the west is also having some issues, the leader said as he punched a wall. His plan had been discovered and now he would have to be more careful. Does that matter so much? Another asked the leader. Maybe, but we have to act. If Konoha sends reinforcements, it will make our mission much harder. He said thoughtfully. What should we do? A Chunin in the group spoke. We need to expedite the plan. Let's contact all the other units to prepare for a full-scale attack. We can't wait any longer, the man said as another person quickly left to send a letter on a bird prepared for this, informing all the teams while waiting for the command from the main members, which would take a few days. Meanwhile, Kui Aburame continued to investigate all possible hideouts in the area, following since Team 2 lost the trail in chasing the ninjas. Team 2 also joined the investigation going west after recovering the next day. While there were 2 investigation teams, there were also 2 execution teams. Minato and his team operated in the east, while Nara and Uchiha returned as soon as their companion was better in the south, joining to form an execution team in the west in partnership with Team 2. They continued to investigate all the possible hideouts in the region. In the eastern region, as soon as they were discovered, a report was sent to Jiraiya. Well, it looks like we've found our first target, he said as his team prepared to advance against the enemy. Jiraiya, as a master of infiltration and effective stealth ninja, quickly devised a good plan. Meanwhile, in the middle of the forest, some wind ninjas remained inside a large tree, waiting for orders from their superiors for the mission, but suddenly, they were surprised by a frog entering the site. Ha ha! You should have seen your face. A frog scared you, one of them teased, pointing at his companion. Tisk, who's afraid of a frog, the ninja said, frustrated, then pulled a kunai from his pocket and tried to angrily kill the frog, which surprisingly dodged the weapon, leaving the ninja surprised as his friends looked at that and began to laugh. Ha 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 ha! It jumped so agilely, his companion laughed. You can't even kill a frog, another taunted. What a pain, the ninja who had missed complained as he walked up to the frog to not embarrass himself again. However, as he approached the frog, its mouth opened and Jiraiya came out of it, killing a ninja the next moment. As the others saw their companion die there stunned, Jiraiya did not stand still, taking advantage of this moment and making hand signs as the place turned into something like the inside of a frog with the walls becoming flesh. The ninjas quickly tried to escape, one managed to get out with the door closing, while the others were trapped. When the ninja went out to escape, he had triggered a trap set by Makoto, who was a specialist in ninja tool traps, quickly making the enemy ninja trip over a wire that he didn't even have time to react as kunais hit him. Minato looked from a distance and remained silent, not making any movement this time, while Jiraiya returned with new scrolls and prisoners inside them. This continued in the following days, while Team 2 and Abruma-sensei investigated, the execution ninjas began to hunt down small infiltrated groups in the country. Meanwhile, in the northern city, Yamanaka finally began to unlock information about the ninjas, especially the leaders, which made him widen his eyes the moment he received crucial information. After all, the enemy had been close to the target the entire time. This is bad, and also this number of ninjas. He was a bit surprised and quickly left the place, leaving information for whoever might come while he approached Jiraiya. After all, the information was vital. In the capital, everything seemed peaceful as the Konoha ninjas maintained their daily vigil after receiving a message from Jiraiya. Almost no one knew of their stay in the city, only Daimyo himself and his circle of trust, with Jiraiya having been introduced on the first day. Today in particular, they were invited by Daimyo himself to the castle, which they saw no reason to disagree with, and ended up going to a room that night. "Welcome. Come with me, but I can't help but notice that ninja called Jiraiya isn't with you," the man commented. "Unfortunately, he had to leave. He is on a mission now outside the city," the white-haired ninja from the Hatake clan commented. "I understand, I can understand," the man said and led them to a room. "Daimyo will join you shortly, you can drink if you want," he said with the drinks on the floor. The ninjas nodded and watched Daimyo's secretary leave. They didn't touch the drink, however. Then 20 minutes passed and there was no sign of the man. "Man, this is strange," the Senju spoke. "Why strange? We are in Daimyo's castle. Since he is going to take a while, let's drink a bit," he said. "I don't think that's a good idea," the man did not fail to comment. "Why? You know our Daimyo, he made us drink so much with Jiraiya, so we should enjoy it. This is the best sake in the land of fire," the man said and convinced the others to grab their bottles. The ninjas cautiously accepted the alcohol into their systems, drinking and chatting among themselves, hoping to have a meeting with Daimyo. However, an effect began to take place as they finally realized that the alcohol they were consuming had been tampered with. It's poisoned," the Senju immediately exclaimed. Before they could act, a group of ninjas burst into the room, exploding the windows and door. "Sorry, Konoha ninjas, but you will be eliminated here," one of the ninjas said with a bloodthirsty smile, and a fight began in the castle. While the ninjas tried to fight under the effect of the poison, they quickly began to lose the combat they were facing. After all, it was 20 ninjas appearing in the middle of the capital. The Senju fared better with his natural resistance, however, he ended up being pressured by a large group of ninjas from the country of stone. He saw his companions dying while he was injured and did not even notice when he had been cut on the neck the next moment, falling to his knees and dying on the spot. As soon as all the ninjas died, the secretary returned, looking at all the mess and blood, but keeping a smile. "Well, you're done, now we can continue with the plan," he said with a smile. The ninjas went to a room, leaving the mess aside, in this room where Daimyo was tied up along with his family. "Now we have to leave the country, which will be easier," the ninja said with a slight smile. Chapter 19 Mission Rank S15. Third Person POV. Fire Country, Year 36. After the death of the Leaf Jonins, a large group of ninjas from 2 nations gathered at this time in Daimyo's castle. "Well, let's start to withdraw," the Sand Ninja said. "But we should follow the plan. We couldn't catch Jiraiya and a bunch of the group was missing. You know they must already be interrogating one of ours, right?" another ninja commented. "Do we have any other choice, do we?" another ninja said. "We have another alternative." One of the lead ninjas suddenly spoke. "What would that be?" another commented. "Let's make a bait, our plan can start." They continued talking among themselves about their next steps and began organizing everything to leave the town soon and pass by the supposed Konoha ninjas patrolling the area. "Let's start the plan, it's time to stir up this city," one of them said. They had finished exterminating all the enemy ninjas, even the Daimyo's bodyguards were killed before taking the last 3 ninjas. Jiraiya's frog remained calm that night, stopping on the roof to look at the city and its nighttime beauty, as Mount Mayaboku did not have this kind of luxury. "Life is so good," he thought as he sat and ate some larvae he had brought with him. However, at this moment, something happened, as a huge explosion occurred at Daimyo's castle, but not just that, many other places in the city began to explode at this moment, creating chaos among everyone, looking at the great light with fire rising up while the places crumbled. "What is this?" the frog murmured, frightened, looking at the chaos. "I must warn Jiraiya." He spoke and quickly joined his hands, turning into a ball of smoke and disappearing. Meanwhile, on the other side, in the east area where Jiraiya and Team 7 were at the camp, surrounded by a campfire eating churros. Ha ha ha. Do you like this kind of life? It's good, right, just you and nature. Jiraiya commented cheerfully, putting a piece of meat on the fire. It's good. Minato replied, since Makoto and Hanabi were silent to the question. Sensei. Makoto began. Yes? Are we going to war after the mission? She asked. We are already at war, girl. We are fighting against enemy ninjas, but on a different field. This is your first war mission, he spoke, and the girl understood. But Jiraiya began. But soon we will go to the battlefield, we just have to eliminate all the invaders that can harm our country, he said. Sensei. Minato decided to speak, but at that moment he felt something with his haki. Jiraiya also felt it a bit later than Minato and looked towards the direction of the slight movement coming from the darkness, but everyone stayed calm. After all, it was a ninja from the mission. But Jiraiya couldn't help but look with a furrowed brow seeing the blonde-haired man here at this moment. Something happened, he asked immediately. Jiraiya. I finally found you, he said and approached. Something important has happened, he started, while Minato and the others looked waiting for something important. I found out there's a traitor along with Demeo in the castle. He's been sold to the country of Earth and must be acting right now. A traitor? Jiraiya frowned. Yes, the capital must be in danger, he said urgently. His move is to take Demeo after placing ninjas in the capital and flee north, taking the border of the Stone Country, he said cautiously. How many are there? Jiraiya asked. At least about 40 ninjas, he said. That's worrying. Jiraiya couldn't help but murmur. I still have my frog in the capital, so he didn't warn me of anything, which means the attack hasn't happened yet. Reflected Jiraiya. But it was at that moment that the frog reappeared out of nowhere with a cloud of smoke. Jiraiya, he shouted. The capital is being burned, he alerted him to the severity, leaving Jiraiya even more stunned. Damn, so quickly, what happened? Jiraiya asked. It was quiet, eating my larvae, he began, although such a thing was unnecessary. Then suddenly at least 3 or 4 parts of the city exploded, everyone started screaming, it was crazy, and one of those places was Demeo's castle, where the team stationed there was partying with the invitation of Demeo, he said. They're probably dead. Yamanaka said, after all, he discovered there were 40 enemy ninjas there. This is bad. Jiraiya frowned and felt a bit sad for losing his team, but he quickly recovered, as he had to maintain composure on this mission and save the grieving for later with the rocks. He looked at Minato at this moment. Let's go, Minato. Yamanaka was a bit confused hearing this. Before heading to the capital, Jiraiya spoke to his frog. I need you to warn Team 2 in the west along with the Jonins, and you. He turned back to Yamanaka. I want you to meet up with our tracker and head north to find the others and anticipate the ninjas' escape. He advised, quickly thinking of the best way to handle the situation. Yamanaka nodded and the girls remained silent. Jiraiya looked at Minato, nodding for him to come closer, while his frog disappeared to head west. We're going to the capital to see what's happening, he said, and at that moment, Minato touched his shoulder, disappearing on the spot to his seal in the city miles away. Yamanaka was surprised by this while the girls just watched. In the capital, flames were spreading in several places. Minato and Jiraiya appeared on top of one of the roofs and could see what was happening in the capital. This is bad, Jiraiya said, as people ran through the streets screaming for help. The Demeo's castle was on fire at this moment. I can't feel anyone. Minato said, his haki was out of reach of anyone. Should we look? He asked. No. They haven't been in the capital long and this is just a distraction. Jiraiya said and began forming seals with his hands, slamming on the ground, summoning 5 man-sized clouds of smoke. 5 frogs of that size appeared in front of him. I need you to extinguish all these flames, Jiraiya said and looked at his student. Now, we need to go north and support the others. And he was about to jump, but Minato stopped him at that moment. The 5 frogs Jiraiya summoned quickly began jumping throughout the city, performing jutsus with their hands and spitting water to extinguish the fire and control it. Meanwhile, Minato spoke about why he stopped his sensei. "Wait, sensei. Something's wrong. I know it's hard to explain, but my intuition says we need to go east," Minato said. After all, his haki was alerting him. It might not be precise, but it always gives him intuition when Minato has to choose paths. Jiraiya looked at him for a few milliseconds and asked seriously, "Are you sure?" Jiraiya looked at him. "Yes, sensei. We should go east," he said, although it was very irrational, being the total opposite of their enemies' countries. "Minato, are you really sure about this?" Jiraiya asked again. "Yes, I believe we can take the risk," he insisted again. "Alright, I'll trust you. Let's just send some clones north to make sure, while we, the originals, will go east," he said, and Minato felt satisfied that Jiraiya trusted him. While the frogs controlled the fire, a clone of Minato and another of Jiraiya with reasonable chakra headed north. Meanwhile, both originals went east as Minato insisted. As they headed in that direction, the members of Team 2, who were to the northeast, were moving at full speed after receiving the news. Team 7 along with Yamanaka and Aburame Sensei met up with them, forming a group of 5 Jonins and 5 Genins. They waited a few hours until finally a group of ninjas appeared with 10 of them, coming in their direction as the Hyugas could pass on the information. "Just 10? Yamanaka commented after receiving the information, as there should have been at least 30 of them. "They're carrying a cage, but it's sealed and I can't see what's inside. Everything indicates that it's Daimyo," Hyuga Sensei said. "We should act. If there were 40 of them, we must fight and stay alert for an ambush until Jiraiya shows up. Our mission is to capture Daimyo and take him to safety." The 10 ninjas were surprised by the movement of the ninjas appearing to intercept them, quickly engaging them in combat, and a fight began in the middle of the forest as jutsus were cast against each other. Konoha was at a disadvantage. Despite having the same number of enemies, or even more Jonin than them, they still had 5 Genins and this weighed heavily on their side. The fight continued as they tried to hold firm and finally the clones of Jiraiya and Minato appeared, with Minato throwing his Rasengan at a ninja and knocking them down while Jiraiya took down 2 by surprise. With this, the fight did not take long for them to win and all the enemy ninjas fell, leaving the cage free and being attentive to not see any other ninja, although the source said there were more than that. "Now let's open this," Nara said, looking at the seal, and Jiraiya began to remove it to release the cage. However, one of the 10 ninjas, still alive, but not for long, coughed and started to laugh. "You really think we didn't know that you knew our plan in the north as an escape? I may die here, but at least I fought for my village." He spoke before continuing to spit blood and dying. "You lost, Konoha!" he exclaimed. "This?" The Konoha ninjas were surprised when they opened the cage and saw a straw dummy, infested with paper bombs, which was activated at that moment. "We must run," one of them said. Then, there was an explosion, destroying everything at the site, catching the clones of Minato and Jiraiya and killing that dying enemy ninja. Meanwhile, the real Daimyo and his family were being taken to the east. "We did it!" one of them celebrated. "Great, we just need to get to the east and start traveling by sea. With this, we will enter the country of wind," another said. "We have to be careful now too, we are near the Uzumaki clan, they are good sensors," another said. "Another clan that we must eliminate in the future," someone commented. "Anyway, we did it, HM?" He didn't finish the sentence, as a kunai quickly began to race along the path, making him have to dodge it. "Damn, they managed to find us," a stone Jonin complained. "Well, it seems that our plan went wrong. Now we have to fight," the Sand Jonin said. Minato and Jiraiya appeared at this moment in front of their enemies. There were 30 ninjas for them to face. They were all the invaders, or those who remained. They prepared to eliminate this group and seize their cages. That wraps up this part of What If Transmigrated as Minato Namikaze. Thanks so much for listening. As always, new parts drop every 4 days, so be sure to stay tuned. Also check out my Patreon channel for early releases of all the series, where you can find all the series released one day ahead of YouTube. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, share it with your friends, and please consider supporting the original author as well. See you in the next one.